on a running back is so important. So now you should be thinking, okay, but you tell us all the time that we can find values mid and late. And I agree. Yes, you can find values mid and late. The issue is that these guys are going mid and late for a reason. Now, I love a lot of the people going in this section I have on the screen right now. Miller, Freeman, Lynch, Burkhead, Kerryon Johnson, Mack, Jamal Williams, Isaiah Crowell, Carson. I love all of those guys. But for you to sit here and tell me that Chris Carson has the same upside as some of the running backs going early, that's just false. In all likelihood, we're going to see probably half of the people on this screen bust. Probably half. Because we like to glorify some of our draft picks and say that nothing could go wrong. But I could point out something with every single one of these players that could go wrong. Ajayi is essentially in a committee. Lamar Miller, to be completely fair, might not be that good at football. Now, I like drafting him because I love the value and I think he's going to put up enough points. But you could easily argue that they have the worst offensive line in the league and that he's not actually that good. Kenyon Drake, I think, is being significantly overvalued for his role in that offense. Ingram suspended to start the season. Freeman, I love. I think it's a fantastic pick, but we've also never seen him play in the NFL. And we're not fully sure he's going to get all of the passing down work. Penny, I mean, he looks like the backup at this point. Jones, he's on a team that has the toughest schedule in the league and he can't catch. Lynch, I mean, he's getting up there in age and he's on a team that, isn't going to be that good. And he, again, isn't going to be involved in the passing game. Dion Lewis, well, he's the backup and he's shown us an inability to stay healthy in the past. Burkhead, he arguably is the backup right now. We don't know, but again, I love Burkhead. But there are some issues with having any Patriots running back ever. Kerryon Johnson, another guy I really like, but again, rookie, hasn't proven it to us. Michelle fumbles all the time, and again, the Patriot running back issue. Mack has the hamstring injury right now. Hyde, I don't think's that great, but he's not going to catch any passes. Coleman's a backup. Jamal Williams isn't even as good as Aaron Jones. Crowell's on the Jets. Chris Carson is technically the backup, and they just drafted a first-round running back. Cohen's never going to get early down work. CJ Anderson is a backup. So you go through every single person on this list, and that was even without thinking. That was just looking at the list. First thing that pops into your mind has to be issues, right? You should never look at a list of players and think of all the good things. You only have 90 seconds on the clock. You have to think about all the bad and say, is he worth the pick? There are issues with every single person on this list. So if you end up going heavy on wide receivers early because you think that there's a gold mine of running backs in the middle rounds, you set yourself up for a very risky draft. Last season, I compared Amari Cooper to Golden Tate, and I said, what is the difference? Not in the players, not as them as athletes. What is the difference in the points you're going to get from Amari Cooper and Golden Tate? Because their touchdowns are going to be similar. Receptions don't matter in standard scoring. The yardage is going to be, it's going to be pretty close. The only difference was the 3 rounds. Tate was going in the 6th, and Cooper goes in that 3-4 range. You have to evaluate these players not on how good they are sometimes, but in what they're going to give you. So the trick, ultimately, is to do projections, to sit there and say, okay, what do I actually think he's going to do for the full season? Is it that much different than a guy I can get 3 rounds later? If that is the case for a wide receiver, you can't take him in standard. You have to be getting a value at every single one of your picks in standard scoring. So here's what I've done. I sat down, Fantasy Football Calculator, which I think right now is the most accurate ADPs, and I said, I'm going to give myself the 9 pick because I think that's a spot where you could go any direction, really. There's no set, if you're in the first 4 picks, you're taking a running back, and then you're probably taking another one in that second round. But I wanted to get a pick where you could have gone a number of different directions. So I got the 9 pick. I did a 12-team league, and here's how it turned out. I started off the draft with Fournette, Freeman, Alex Collins, and Lamar Miller. I started off with 4 running backs, and that's something I almost think you need to do in standard. I play in my hometown money league is for some reason still standard. I'm going to plead with them to get it to PPR, but right now it's still standard. Last season, I think I took a running back with my first 6 picks because I know full well I'm going to bust on some of these picks. For me to sit here and tell you that Fournette, Freeman, Collins, Miller are all going to work out is ridiculous. We all know that 1 or 2 of them are going to bust. And since I went heavy, I want to make sure I'm right. So what do I also do is grab Burkhead, grab Crowell in the 6th and 8th rounds. I feel like getting those 6 players assures me at least 3 start-worthy running backs. If it doesn't, I get 2, and then I can use a wide receiver in the flex, or I could also add whoever's hot on waivers. But look what I also did. Fournette is a touchdown guy. Now, touchdowns are very difficult to project because there's a very high variance in the amount of touchdowns someone sees, but Fournette has very low variance in his touchdowns because he's going to get nearly 100% of the goal line work. My knock on him is that he can't catch. He doesn't have a lot of reception. That doesn't really matter in standard scoring. That's why we have him so high in standard, because it doesn't matter. We want the touchdowns, we want the yardage, both of which he's going to have. Freeman, what's his big thing? Touchdowns. Every single one of these guys has an ability to score touchdowns. Alex Collins should be the lead back, should be the goal line back. Miller is going to be the lead back. We don't even know when Foreman's going to be on the field. Burkhead's going to be the goal line back in New England. Crowell's going to be the goal line back for the Jets. So I've built out a team of guys that I trust and guys that I think have immense upside at the position that's the most important. So now we look and we say, did I give up too much? Well, if you're going to do this, I would recommend you cannot, even if you get a value at quarterback, you can't sit there and take a quarterback in one of these positions that I drafted, the wide receivers, in that 5th and 7th round. I don't feel that your team is strong enough at that point to make up for it. I think there's great values of wide receivers, but if in that 7th round I'd taken a quarterback, I just don't think having Hogan, Kupp, Aguilar, Tyrell, it could work out, but I think you need that extra chance. And I absolutely love a ton of the quarterbacks going late, so it was no issue for me. But getting Hogan, who again, touchdowns. While he's on the field, he's going to score a ton of touchdowns. Sanders, it's not necessarily a touchdown thing with him as much as I just think he's being undervalued right now, so I just think he's just a good pick in general to get me points because he was hurt last year. He's still a good wide receiver. I think, honestly, he might be a better fit for how Keenum throws the ball than Demaryius is. And then we just finished with a bunch of wide receivers that I really like. Cooper Kupp, Nelson Aguilar, Tyrell Williams. I think all of them are being significantly undervalued right now, and that's what I want every single one of my picks, basically, in the draft. We got Mariota, who's being undervalued, and we got Doyle, who's just being criminally undervalued. So I guess the next question is, could you see this team in another scoring format? Because I say this is optimal for standard scoring, and I think that if you drafted this team in a standard scoring league, this will put you into the playoffs. Now, I know half the teams typically bust because statistically, 50% of your roster will be on free agency by the end of the year. You're going to drop half your players. But if you even have 1 or 2 good waiver ads, and you're at least competent in the waiver wire, you're going to be able to add to this team and make a monster team. But what could you do in half point or in full point PPR? Well, I think the strategy can be the same, and I want your guys' opinion if you want a whole new video on PPR strategy and how it might be different. It's more that the players I target would probably be different. So instead of at 1.9, I probably wouldn't take Fournette. I'd probably lean some different running backs at that point, but I would probably still get running back. So you might see the same distribution of going 4 running backs, in the first 4 rounds. Maybe I don't take Fournette. Maybe I don't take Freeman. I may, but it's possible that they're different because I do favor receptions, and I think that Fournette may not be getting as many receptions as other guys. Now, I say that, and I actually like every single running back on this list, even in PPR scoring, and I love, obviously, all the wide receivers because I love all the players in the teams I draft. I don't draft players I don't love. But in PPR, you typically want to not go this heavy on running back. So maybe going 3 running backs to start, and then instead of Lamar Miller, grabbing, I don't know if that Diggs, Amari Cooper range will still be there come end of August, but I think right now you can get Amari Cooper at that spot. So maybe switch out Lamar Miller for Amari Cooper. He would go into that wide receiver too. You could then potentially, instead of Crowell, I guess, take another wide receiver, and maybe you take like DJ Moore at that spot. And then I guess either Nelson Aguilar or Tyrell Williams would then be a running back going late that you like. So there's minute changes that you would make in the favor running back or favor wide receiver a little bit more, and then change up the players, because you're not going to weight touchdowns as much. You're going to weight receptions. You're going to rate volume in the offense. You don't need to weight volume in the passing offense as much in standard scoring because the receptions don't matter. And since touchdowns are such high variance, you want people who are on the field, but you want people who are on the field in the red zone as well. And you might not think of it looking at this list, but Kupp, Aguilar, and Williams actually have really high touchdown upside with how much they are used in that offense and in the red zone. So a quick summary just on the player difference. Touchdowns in standard scoring are really like one of the only things you should be looking at early. You need guys that score touchdowns. In PPR, it needs to be volume. It needs to be targets. It needs to be carries. Target running backs heavily in standard scoring. Even in PPR, you need to be targeting them early in the draft. Just you don't have to do it to the extent that you need to do it in standard scoring. Okay, a reminder, the DraftKings deal, $10 deposit is going to get you access to our site, access to both chats, the season-long chat and the DFS chat, get you access to my articles and all of the premium content. But that is the end of this video. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, how about we hit that like button? How about we subscribe if we're new? Thanks for watching.